Good day, Guyana, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we'll be discussing some of the political, economic, and social measures to help to give support to the citizens of Guyana during this trying time we're being faced with the coronavirus, which is a global pandemic. As you all know, it requires a global approach to treat with this deadly virus, which has claimed many lives globally so far. And we have been following the news and seeing what it has been doing to economies. Generally speaking, the global environment has come to a standstill, and therefore, we have to face this crisis head on. While we need a global governance approach to treat with this virus, Guyana is in a very peculiar position. Now, given our political instability over the last several months, I would even go to a year or so, and given the situation that we found ourselves in at this present point in time, that is the credible declaration of the elections, which was held on March 2nd, we will be very constrained to get international relief from our donor partners, and therefore we have to look inwards, so to speak, to help to meet the demands that will be required to combat this deadly disease. Now, under the leadership of Dr. Irfan Ali, a national task force was commissioned March 28th to help to fill the void that exists in our economy. And as such, we've established several subcommittees under the general umbrella to help to bring relief to our citizens. As you all know, our citizens are our most valuable resource. And if our citizens are not in the best of health, and if they're not properly provided for in terms of good health care, our productivity will wane and our economy will perish eventually. To this end, Dr. Irfan Ali has been very proactive in trying to establish a framework, which he was successful in doing, to help us to meet the demands of the people. The Health Subcommittee has been very, very effective in trying to roll out a lot of programs that we have in place. And for those of you who have been following the news recently, you would have seen that we have already begun distributing masks on a national scale. We're trying our best to ensure that persons protect themselves through social distancing, personal isolation, as well as stay at home. We also have a Wear Your Mask campaign to bring a lot of attention to the seriousness of this disease and to let the citizens of Guyana know that it would require a change in our behavior to be able to combat this deadly disease. So the Health Subcommittee has been our first line of defense in terms of being able to meet this pandemic on a frontal. And we also have 3 other subcommittees, which are the Social and Economic Subcommittee, along with an Information and Communication Committee, and we also have a Resource Mobilization and Logistics Committee. But this committee, today, is the Economic and Social Committee, which comprise of the private sector, representatives from the other political parties, and we have been working hard to come up with very workable measures that would be able to keep our citizens afloat during this trying time. As you're all aware, once our citizens are not healthy, productivity will not be at its highest, and therefore we have to be able to ensure that our social and economic pillars are robust enough to withstand this deadly disease. So what we are focusing on is building resilience. Today we have a very competent team of individuals who will be discussing some of the areas within the subcommittee that will be able to, once implemented, target the entire population to bring much needed relief to the citizens to keep them afloat during this trying period. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is no stranger to Guyana. He is a private sector executive. He's also on the Private Sector Commission, that is. He's also an executive in the private sector. He has a wealth of experience in finance and accounting, and he is going to discuss with you some of the measures from the private sector that they have been discussing that would allow to bring some amount of balance and stimulus to the people of Guyana. This is no other than Mr. Ramesh Prasad. Mr. Ramesh Prasad.
Okay, thank you very much, you. It's a pleasure to be on your program, and good day to all Guyanese that are tuning in on this program. The Private Sector Commission has been very active in the last 2 weeks in participating in several committees, the National Task Force, this Stakeholder Forum, in addition to many other health committees that have been formed around the country, and have also been actively participating with the CDC to provide assistance where necessary. The Private Sector Commission itself has a particular discussion forum for sharing and exchange of information on a daily basis. And on average, we've been getting 20 to 25 persons joining us on a daily basis at 2 p.m. to discuss the various challenges that businesses are encountering. Much of the things that we have been advocating for being for the last 2 weeks, we have seen some movements in them. We particularly like to welcome the movements that we've seen so far. We know a lot has changed within the last 2 weeks. Businesses are having significant difficulties, difficulties from all fronts. In every crisis, you have businesses that will be affected and businesses that will do well because of the services that they provide. But this is indeed a very trying time for business and the business community. From the business community, the private sector perspective, businesses are trying their best to ensure they maintain their employees, they support them. There are some businesses who can't provide that kind of support due to not having income, due to not having cash flow, and have really been having tremendous challenges as a result of not being able to have access to markets or be able to provide their goods and services. We see with those businesses, and we like to encourage those businesses who can afford it, who've got the cash flow, who've still got income, and who've got the wherewithal to continue supporting their employees. We've got commitments from many businesses that they will try their best to support their employees as long as it's practical. We know cash flow is a finite resource, and a lot is dependent on what is available there. Many businesses have implemented measures to facilitate physical distancing, social distancing, and all the protocols that are necessary to reduce the spread of the virus. Businesses have also taken action to rotate their employees, reduce their hours whereby people will be exposed. Businesses have also adopted new and different ways of operating. A lot more businesses are operating in the context of people can call in to make orders, call in to do business, utilize their online platform. And some businesses are actually utilizing technology for their teams to work at home. So businesses are doing everything in the best of their interest to survive this situation. Now, in addition to what businesses have been doing, the private sector has been advocating for support to our health workers. We've got various groups of people that are providing assistance throughout the country. On a social front, the private sector is working towards raising financing to provide support to the vulnerable and to those who need assistance. It's a very difficult thing to do at this time as businesses have difficulty generating cash flow. Some businesses are contributing, and we will see some movement on that front. Some of the things that we have been asking for, we've gotten some traction. We've seen the reduction of fuel costs for transportation. We hope that this could translate into reduction in electricity costs, in particularly for the domestic consumer. The utility bills is one of the biggest trouble in the minds of many people at the moment, and I'm sure they will need some support in that regard. The critical thing that people will need, in addition to staying at home at this time, people need to ensure that they have electricity, that they have water, and for those who have internet and telephone, that it is functioning. We are thankful to those companies who have extended the deadlines in those instances, but some relief can be provided if electricity costs and water costs can come down. So we have been advocating for that. We've also been advocating for relief in terms of essential items, where the opportunities exist for taxes and VAT to be reduced. We've asked for those. We've particularly made proposal to the National Task Force for some level of relief to workers who are still getting their salaries, if they can have a bump in net income by some relief in their PAYE. We're yet to see some discussions on that, but those are some things they've been asking for. We are particularly grateful to the banks and the financial institutions today for providing relief to their customers in whatever way they could, by deferring payments and providing relief in terms of interest rates, etc. All right. So we believe that those measures will significantly help the business community. There are other things that the business community has been advocating for. A lot of clarity is needed and support in terms of the private hospitals and private medical institutions. They're all part of the private sector. And I believe that their technical expertise and their entire supply chain can be leveraged to help in this situation. The discussions have been having in that regard. We're still not sure why the private labs are not being allowed to provide the support and allowed to acquire the testing kits. There's some difficulties here, but I'm sure they'll make some progress in the near future in that regard. Good. I'm aware of institutions trying to acquire ventilating machines, but as you know, the global supply chain is being affected. So support in that regard wherever could be important. And one of the most significant things, in addition to private businesses trying to support their employees, there are some businesses who just can't keep their employees on board, and they would have had to resort to laying off or furloughing, to save their businesses for the long term in this context. We don't fault them, but we understand their situation. The other thing that we have been advocating for, which is a very difficult thing to do in this governance structure that we are currently in, is direct payments to employees who have lost their jobs, the unemployed, the informal sector for people who were not part of the formal employment, but people who are contractors and minibus drivers and taxi who are unable to do the kind of businesses they have been doing in the past. There are some people who earn income on a day-to-day basis. We do appreciate the efforts on the lockdown and shutdown, but we also would like to see if we can mobilize support for those people who can't earn anymore and have no other option, available to them. And that is where we would like to see some great movement with direct support to those individuals. Well, that's in summary the issues that we have been paying attention to over the last few weeks. We will continue to pay attention to these issues and continue to advocate for the things that are important for the survival of business, for the maintenance of our employees, and for support to those who need it most at this time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ramesh. Now we will go to Mr. Deodat Indar, who is going to give you a summary on the economic relief measures.
Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Deodat. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So, one of the things is the current situation we're in. The People's Progressive Party, and I'm speaking as a candidate for the People's Progressive Party. Dr. Irfan Ali put together this multi-stakeholder task force with all good intentions. I believe it's admirable. It shows leadership and bringing together the song minds, those who are professional in their field together to bring to bear all of the expertise so that we can have a plan to deal with this pandemic. Now, just to let the viewers know that we have never seen something like the coronavirus since 1990 when they had a global plague. So now this generation are faced with a pandemic that we are totally unprepared for. So let's talk about what happened in the US. The US have very advanced system, advanced infrastructure, advanced economy, and they are grappling with it. We in Guyana, we are far below in terms of our infrastructure, the medical systems, or the size of our economy and so on. So what we have to make sure as the People's Progressive Party, and I think Dr. Ali did say that we have to make sure that we are prepared and we do the work that is needed to serve the people. Some of the things that we believe that can address some of the issues that we are faced with. Spin off from some of the things that you said for us, Todd, and I saw Ramesh Prasad from the Private Sector Commission touching them. But from a broader perspective, businesses, a lot of them, he said, laid off workers. We are saying that, subsidies for these businesses, these distressed businesses, should be in place, especially when it deals with the wages aspect of these of workers. So you have a wage bill. So we have to provide subsidy for that wage bill. If we don't provide subsidy for that wage bill, it means that workers will be on the breadline for a very long time. Because after you go through this period where there's significant decline because of the pandemic, to get back business going again, people will not have money. They will not have the working capital to get back their business going. So they need subsidies for that, their wage bill. In addition to that, a lot of people operate on credit, and their loans are due. We are saying that if the financial institutions can have defer these loan repayment at least for 6 months, because no one knows the height that this pandemic is going to have, and when it goes to its peak, no one knows when it's going to flatten out and when it's going to die down. So that is something that nobody can tell you. So you have to plan as if, you're dealing with a medium to long-term problem. There are those who believe that it will flatten out and then it will bump up back again, this virus, in terms of the rate of how it infects our population, and we have to plan for that. One of the things is working capital. Working capital is normally the main reason business will belly up. So working capital is something that we got to make sure that we work with the financial institutions to make sure they have extended working capital. When people cannot pay back their payments for their working capital requirement or loans, soft loans that they have with financial institutions, we have to make sure we have to push for extension of that. And simply because business is not doing. If you look at remember Guyana is suffering not just from COVID-19 fears and the effects that the current authority is taking on social distancing. What is happening is that we had an election period. So you have election fears and the downturn associated with that in Guyana, coupled with COVID-19 issues. So we are suffering both ends here. We are burning the candle from both ends. And because of that, we got to make sure that we put in the kind of monies into the system to assist businesses, assist people, assist the entire government structure. We got to make sure monies is there to run that. For example, in Jamaica, they have a program is around 185 million US dollars. I think that is the amount they put into the system. For us, if we look, these 3 months have gone, we're into the 4th month. Our economy is the size of about 4 billion per annum. So it's like 3 months we're gonna have gone. And with this lockdown run until May 1st, you'll find that you'll have further decline in business because a whole host of measures have been put in place for social distancing to get that going in terms of having the lockdown at various parts of the country, various areas of the country, various sectors of business, leaving only what they call the essential ones operating. That is gonna hammer the economy. What we need is to make sure that we have enough monies, and we have to go for loan for these kind of money. We can get loans and use foreign revenue to back those current loans to deal with this kind of thing, because you have to put money in the economy. If you don't put the money in the economy right now, people need to live. We can't just lock down the country and then you have people are hungry, they don't have a job. It will not work, or will not work as effectively as you want. But people will go out to look for work. They will go out to find things to take care of their family. So we got to make sure that if we put these measures in place, we got to make sure you have the economic matrix. You have to have systems in place to deal with people that our people that are not that well off. A lot of our people, are unemployed right now. So we got to make sure that we do all of the things to help them. Ramesh Prasad touched on a couple of them. I think you taught as well. You got to make sure that people get food. We got to make sure they like bills, all the utility. I know we have other speakers going to talk about that, but those are the things that are kitchen table issues. And the kitchen table issues is we got to address so that people can go through this storm, make sure they stay indoors, but they got to be comfortable. They have to have food, they have to have light, they have to have water, the utilities out of work, they got to get data, they have to have medicine, sanitation stuff, all of those things have to be there. So normally, if you try to import these things right now, there are taxes on them. And we are saying that we want to remove all the taxes on these things. We want those things not to attract any kind of taxes. Private persons should be able to import testing for coronaviruses as well. All of those items that they want to import in relation to treatment, transportation, isolation, quarantine, the entire process, the medical process to deal with this virus, all those things should be tax-free. So it's kind of little. If you look at what we have right now, there are not much ambulances to move people. If a call comes in about a case, how do you move the person properly from one point to the next? We got to get more ambulances. We need things. We need transportation. PPE. Those are something you can't just put our medical professional on the front line and then they don't have the kind of PPE to do their work. So they need that. We have to provide that. Private people need to bring it in, and when they do bring it in, they need to make sure that those don't attract taxes. Taxes cannot be on items that are used during a pandemic to save lives and so on, right? The other thing is that we need to make sure we have quarantine spaces. We need to have isolation spaces in addition to what the hospitals have. Because if it's going to peak, you need to have more beds, and those need to be different. They need to have more facilities that are different from the Georgetown hospitals and so on. Private hospitals don't do testing because the current authority does not want, does not give them that authority to do testing. But if you're dealing with a pandemic of this nature, private hospitals must be able to do testing, right? Testing is one of the ways to make sure that we know when persons are they're infected, so that they can take extra care so they don't infect others. They don't put their own family and friends at risk of getting infected too. So testing is a critical thing. So it should not just rest with the current authority, but I believe that that should be in the hands of private institutions too, because the hospitals that are private institutions throughout Guyana, they have been here for a while. They've been doing medical services for a while. They're authorized by government to do that. So why not give them to do the test? It's a question that we had to answer, and I think that we need to answer it quickly and give the people the chance to import whatever testing they want. And I know some of them have already ordered testing equipment. It's yet to be delivered. But whenever that happens, they should be allowed to do their testing. In addition to that, we generally have to look at the broader economy. Right now, as we are right now, everything is on the downturn. Most businesses are facing downturn. If you go on the streets, you talk to the normal person too, from a vendor at a market, they will explain to you that business is on a downturn because there is not much money in people's hands. What is in people's hands? They've stocked up with fears, put maybe some groceries and so on in their houses, but there's not much money to carry on. So when this replenishment, when this consumption period finishes and you need replenishing of groceries and household items, you're gonna find that people are gonna find it difficult again to replenish. And we need to step up and make sure that we provide essential foods to people. And we have to give them that. We have to try our best to come as a country to get them to do that. There are some more other measures, but I don't want to take away from the colleagues that are coming after me. So I believe that I will put a stop to that now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deodat. Can we hear from Mr. Raul Aaron, who is an executive member of the URP party that contested in the March 2nd elections? Go ahead, Mr. Aaron. Mr. Aaron? All right, can we go to Mr. Sistarine Singh? Sistarine, can we hear from you?
Hello all, testing.
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Hello all, thank you for joining us on this COVID-19 briefing and some responses. Dr. Irfan Ali is focused on ensuring the welfare of employees and citizens of Guyana are being protected. And to this effect, he led from the front today on the distribution of over 1,000 masks free of charge to market vendors, minibus operators, shoppers at the Lenore Market, and many other Guyanese. This is in line with his plan, basically, that all Guyanese must wear a mask to reduce the transmission of this virus from those who have it to those who do not have it. We are encouraging all citizens and all employees to please wear a mask. And to that effect, we are going to try to get as many masks into the hands of Guyanese citizens, joining other stakeholders across the length and breadth of Guyana to get this done. During this global pandemic, we are aware that thousands of employees lost their jobs in Guyana, temporarily, or in some cases, permanently. This committee is working hard to focus the required energies to help Guyana reboot. Very important that Guyana reboots from where we are. We are having an economic downslide, but we can reboot, and we must reboot, and we will reboot, but it requires leadership. In that order, we're asking the authorities to do the following. One, immediately raised the threshold to accommodate no taxation for employees in vulnerable sectors that were sent off the job during this period. We want to make sure that the threshold can be increased actually from 65,000 to 100,000. The second policy response we're asking the authorities to do is to remove mortgage interest and payment for the period of 6 months by either giving a support or asking a deferment of it. 3, reduce the spread at the commercial banks. This is the difference between the lending rate and the savings rate. 4, removal of VAT from all food items. 5, removal of VAT on detergent and all household and medical and other cleaning supplies. 6, temporarily remove the requirement to pay income and corporation tax up front. 7, emergency funding for small businesses at risk of closure. And 8, extend the time to pay utility bills and higher purchase debts. Finally, in this challenging time, we are aiming basically to under-promise and over-deliver. In that order, we're aiming to get 50,000 masks into the hands of the Guyanese people. It's a big task. We're not over-promising, but we are going to try. And we are going to try positively. So far, we have seen a creation of a grassroots industry that has rocketed off over the last week, where some 100 seamstresses and tailors have all across this nation has basically put together their effort in conjunction with this COVID committee to produce made in Guyana masks by Guyanese for Guyanese. For a stipend, a small stipend, but at least it keeps them ticking over. That is the job creation nature of what this COVID committee is trying to do to stimulate economic activities even in this challenging time. And it's part of the initiative to put Guyana back to work. Very, very important that we put Guyana back to work. We're again trying to target our efforts appropriately. We cannot do everything. We are not already in charge of the state machinery. But while we are here, we're going to do our national patriotic effort to move the process forward. As we saw today, Dr. Irfan Ali leading from the front, getting masks into the hands of the people. It is extremely crucial that the authorities act fast and be fully transparent in containing this virus so that the welfare of the employees and the citizens of Guyana are protected as we aim to slow the transmission of this virus across this lovely land. I'm calling on all of Guyana to have an attitudinal metamorphosis. Stay at home, and if you have to leave your home, we're pleading with you to do a couple of things. One, wear your mask, wash your hands with soap and water, and if you can afford it, alcohol treatment. And lastly, practice social distancing. And on that note, I want to say a very good night and thank you.
Thank you very much, Sis Narayan. Can we get Mr. Nigel Hines? Is he on? Mr. Nigel Hines? Maybe we're getting some technical difficulties. Is Mr. Paul Chong available?
Yeah. Good evening.
Go ahead, please.
You hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
You hearing me? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, viewers. Tonight, my task is to look at the small and medium-sized businesses and how we can assist them after COVID-19. As we all know, a large part of the economy and the economic growth of any country rely heavily on small and medium-sized businesses. They're the ones that do the bulk of the employing and also generate a lot of revenue. The small and medium-sized business, they have three categories of stakeholders. They have that rely on them. Apart from the consumers, the employees, the owners, and the enterprise itself, which is a separate. I put this as a separate entity. The employees, they would need during this period and probably immediately after, they'll need financial assistance because they need to take care of their families. They need to ensure that they're well. Yeah, sorry, what you hear me there?
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, the employees, they would also need consumables such as food items and sanitary supplies to cleaning stuff. And those are things that we be looking at how we can help them through food hampers and what they have either rent to pay or mortgages. We need to ensure that their landlords, don't evict them because they can't pay their rent, because they also the mortgages. We need the bank again to relax the supervisory guideline where you debts go doubtful within 3 months. We also need the insurance companies to look at their insurance premiums and give them some kind of relief during this period. The national insurance contribution, we need to work out some way in which they don't lose the NIS benefit because of not being in a position to contribute, and for them to have a credit for those contributions for during this period. COVID-19 is something very serious. It's affecting the entire universe. I mean, this is unheard of for the last 50, 60, 70 years, and even for 100 years. So, it requires a big effort on everybody's part for us to go through this and go through this well, and for us to survive and to move forward and recover quickly after. The owners of the business, who are the employers, they also need assistance because their businesses would be suffering tremendously during this period. One of the main thing that it allows, it prevents people from traveling as they should, as they normally do, or as they usually do. And with that, commerce will suffer. Businesses will suffer. Minibus owners will suffer. The workers that drive minibuses, the conductors, they suffer because they don't have passengers. The boat operators across the river, they suffer. So our small businesses, and they don't have the reserve and the wherewithal to continue or to operate or to live without an income for a long or a lengthy period of time. And that is why they're in dire need for assistance. And we, the PPPC, we believe that they are an important segment of the economy, an important segment of the country. And that's why we're pushing and we're suggesting and we're saying that they should be assisted financially through grants, through disbursements, and through the handing out and giving out of supplies, food supplies, and so that can help them to live comfortably during this period. They will also be having loans and overdraft with businesses, overdraft that they would have used to purchase, but for those who have stores, buy items for their stores, and those items they can't sell them because, again, as I said, the declining activity because of COVID-19, and those over be accruing interest that will keep growing because, again, they can't sell their products to pay back the bank. Those we're calling, I mean, as Sis said earlier, we asking that the financial institution look at reducing those interest rates. It look as a short-term thing, because when these businesses recover and grow, then they will be able to, the banks will be able to benefit better in that time. Without, if the business collapse, you know, it can be difficult for them, the banks, to foreclose on so many businesses and get that sold. So it would have a bigger impact on those financial institutions if they don't take the opportunity now to start looking at refinancing, at reducing the interest rate, at extending credit after this period is over. Now, the enterprises themselves, you know, based on the activity they're involved in, would require different kind of assistance. I give some example, like a poultry farmer. You know, because of activity in the economy now, he can't sell his chicken. He might, you know, what happened when this COVID-19 is finished? He need assistance to, with financial assistance to purchase back chicks, to buy back feed, and to get his operation back up and running. Similarly, the cash crop farmer, he would need seedlings, he would need fertilizer, and those are things which we would work to get into the hands of these people so that they can get back on their feet. You know, the faster for us to come out of the slump after COVID-19, for us to get everybody up and running. Once everybody start moving, the economy will get back on its feet faster, and everybody will be in a better position. So the cash crop farmer, as I said, they would need different things from the poultry farmer. The rice farmers, you know, if they're unable to harvest their crop because of a total lockdown and they can't sell it, but they would have a different, they would have different needs. They would need money to till their land back again, land preparation. They would need planting material, what we call seed paddy. They would need money for fertilizer. And, you know, based on what happened during this period and what needs these farmers would have, we'll have to look at it and try to assist them and get them back on their feet, get them moving, so that, as I said again, the economy will move and everybody would get back to normal. The longer people, the longer we allow the situation to meander after COVID-19, the deeper a hole the economy would be in. Right now, Guyana is in a recession, as so many other countries, and we need to have those organizations, the small businesses, immediately after COVID-19 up and running back again, so that the economy can begin to move in the right direction. Okay, and farmers would need special assistance too, based on what would have happened to them during this period. The store owners, as I said before, they would need different intervention. So all the small businesses, as I said, they're important, and we need to look at them carefully in terms of what category of the economy they're working in, whether they're in construction, whether they're in mining, and see how we can help them to recover and to get back on their feet after COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chang. We'll now wrap up with Mr. Zulfikar Ali, who is the current president of the American Chamber of Commerce, Guyana chapter. Go ahead, Mr. Ali.
Thank you, Hugh, and good night to everyone. First, let me thank you for the opportunity to be part of this team, and I thoroughly appreciate the discussions and the suggestion that everyone has been making over the past few weeks. I support the opinions of my colleagues who spoke earlier that indeed we are facing some very challenging times. And I think our discussions and the suggestions that emanated from the measures that we have came up with look at targeting private businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, as well as private citizens who many of them are facing a lot of hardships right now. I'm most impressed with the suggestions that we have to offer support to small and medium-sized enterprises and those businesses to meet their wage bill. I think this is very important, and this is something that we should not wait too long to get these measures in place to support these small businesses and their employees as well as to offer unemployment benefits for all those newly unemployed people. There are a lot of people now who are unemployed. Some businesses were forced to lay off employees. We need to reach out to them. We need to understand what they're going through, and we need to find mechanisms to support them. And that has to be done very urgently as well. We need to encourage landlords to offer certain number of months rent-free. So especially the poorer class, the unemployed, to ensure that they still have a roof over their head. And the discussions that we've had with regards to that, I think it's something that we need to take further, and we need to have this discussion and bring it towards implementation, because many people are now worried about paying their rents, paying their utility bills. Speaking about utility bills, I think we need a very clear policy, especially for public utilities, where these could be either we have deferred payments or to subsidize those utilities, especially for vulnerable persons. In crises like these, the vulnerable are the ones who are affected first, and they are affected the most. And everything that we do have to be catered towards protecting those people and their families as well. We need to look at deferred mortgages, increased credit availability, and also deferred tax payments. And I think a lot was said by Mr. Chung and Indar and SACE as well. And I know that we have a lot more that we've recommended, and we just need to now get them and get the authorities to look at them and to see how best we can start implementing these as soon as possible. There is a crisis out there. We don't need to have a discussion about it. We don't even need to argue about it. But we need to move from where we are and the uncertainties that are there to have these policies in place, and it must be widely known to everyone, to the businesses, large and small, to the private entrepreneurs, to the citizens themselves. We need to give them that reassurance very early that these things are being taken care of. So as I said, I'm very pleased and I'm very happy to have been part of this group and the measures that we've discussed over the past week. And we need to now take this further to implementation.
Ali, and thank you, Guyana, for spending the time to listen to us, this subcommittee, to hear our views and what measures that we're proposing. I want to say thanks again to Dr. Irfan Ali, who is the presidential candidate of the People's Progressive Party Civic, for commissioning this National Stakeholders Forum. I believe we've made significant progress, and I want to remind Guyanese across the length and breadth of this country that we care,